I want to talk about the movie.
Yes.
But I also, you got to travel a little this summer.
Yeah.
You went to Amsterdam, which was.
Yeah, you have a history with Amsterdam.
I lived there for a couple years. One of the most beautiful cities in the world.
The most beautiful scenery, the most beautiful prostitutes. I
Yes.
wasn't even on drugs. I didn't do drugs. I was working, and also drugs are bad. And I was just blown away by how pretty it was. And I did go to the red light district just to kind of see and whatever.
Yes.
And, you know, very beautiful ladies. And there were like two petite ladies, and I was like, you guys are doing it.
Yeah.
Doing it for the sisters. Love it.
Very hard to find a petite woman in general in Amsterdam. Very tall people.
Yeah,
the Dutch.
that's why I didn't stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You-
I just
you-
thought
you
it was
will
so
like the
gorgeous.
canals? Did you
I went
enjoy-
on the canals. I ended up like, you know, just for fun, like videoing the whole like canals and the scenery and stuff. And as I am wont to do, it was just sort of like sarcastically going like, oh God, it's ugly here. Like, ugh, how do you people even wake up in the morning and look at the scenery? And most people understood that was me saying it was very beautiful. And there were a couple of Dutch people who thought I was being very rude and I
Yes.
should go back to my country. But then a fair amount of Dutch people came to my defense. But it was all happening in Dutch. So now I know the Dutch word for sarcastic, which is sarcastisch.
Yeah,
So not
yeah.
that hard.
Not that hard.
They were going like, she's being sarcastic. And several said, you know, she's just drunk. So I also know.
Gotcha.
Drunken is the Dutch word for drunk.
Drunken,
Yeah.
Yes, I've been drunken a few times
Yeah.
in Amsterdam. Did you go anywhere else in
I
Europe?
did. I went to Switzerland, which is like the cute.
It's really amazing.
The cutest country.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm being patronizing, but I'm sorry. It's so
Yeah,
cute.
it makes
Everything
Amsterdam look like a garbage can. Yeah.
Exactly. Like every hillside was like the most perfectly designed, like the cutest, most amazing. And I took a friend of mine, and she, you know, was like very grateful to be taken to Switzerland. But as we would crest every hill, what am I, an animal? I'm not going to sing Sound of Music.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, so it was like really watching the test of our friendship, like play out on her face, knowing like she bought me this trip to Switzerland, be nice, but then how many times can I sing High on a Hill Was a Lonely Goat Herd before she murders me on this hilltop and leaves the body?
It required patience on her
Yes,
part.
God bless her.
This film is, it's a little tricky to describe, but we were saying backstage, the director, the writer is...
He's like a British comedy legend.
Yeah, Chris Morris.
Chris Morris. It is hard to describe. It's like a dark satire about the criminal justice system, and it really devolves into like a farce, like a full Shakespearean comedy of errors where like everybody's misunderstanding everybody. And it's a really serious subject matter because it's about the way that law enforcement kind of uses entrapment and kind of disproportionately targets minorities. But it's so funny, which is not because we take it lightly, but because Chris Morris is so good at using satire to kind of talk about these subjects. So a lot of the details in our movie are like trying to be as absurd as like hundreds of these true cases.
Because you're basically an FBI agent who's trying to set somebody up so you can get the credit for taking them down.
Exactly. Like everybody's motivated by ego, and like I think that some people spend their life thinking that law enforcement has our best interest at heart. And it's really interesting to...
I thought you were saying we were motivated by ego, which I was also down with. I was also going to be on board with you there. Yeah.
Both true things.
I know you shot that in the Dominican Republic, and now you're shooting in New York, yes? What's it like shooting in New York?
New York has been great. Like, I can't believe, I feel very grown up shooting stuff in New York. But I will say, like, when you shoot in a small town, like, people are like, oh, I just can't go to work today or get into my home because they're filming a movie. Like, yeah, whatever you need. And in New York, they're like, I've lived here for 30 years. Get the off my street. Like, I'm going to do what I know. And we were shooting on St. Mark's Place at midnight on a Friday, and nobody was going to be quiet for us. And, like, there's just guys walking through the shots. And at one point, a guy was walking through the shot and vomited. And when something like that happens, you realize that there's no like department for that on a film set. There's no one whose job it is to clean up the vomit, and it was right next to the director's like monitor where he's going like, and cut. Got some notes, but so they didn't have a solution, so they just set up little orange cones around the vomit. But what was crazy is I was thinking about it, and I was like, it was little orange cones, which to me suggests that this happens enough.
Yeah.
That they have special orange cones for vomit situations in New York.
They have like ones for traffic, and then they have little ones.
like just for vomit.
It's always so wonderful to see you
Thank you for
here.
having me.
Congrats on the movie.